lot of people, when they think of growing up around a funeral director, and also my mom is a hospice nurse, they picture, I don't want to use the term depressing, but just like a somber environment. But my experience was actually quite opposite of that. I think it allowed me to have a very unique outlook on life because I knew that life was finite. It allowed me to be comfortable having really difficult conversations around topics that society as a whole don't necessarily always talk about. And obviously allowed me to start my business, Eirene, because of my knowledge of an industry that has remained largely unchanged for over 100 years. My dad has worked in the industry for 30 plus years, and I recognized that there was a difference between kind of what the traditional industry provides versus what trends are happening in the industry. And I know it's weird to call it a trend, but you look at the cremation rate is on the rise. It's already 75% across Canada. People are having more unique memorials. As a whole, we're moving to more digital online products. So I think I got curious, and that curiosity led to a lot of research and thinking, hey, maybe this is the perfect combination of technology and in my family background. Yeah, so Eirene is a cremation company based in Canada. We currently serve 5 provinces. So we serve Ontario, Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. And our focus is really on simplifying the cremation arrangement process for Canadians. We do that in 3 ways. 1, we make it affordable. So we're about half the cost of a traditional funeral home. The reason being we don't have the same overhead that a traditional funeral home would have because we are an online first company. The second is on simplifying kind of not only how we present information in specific language that we use, but also simplifying pricing. We present our pricing as a flat fee. You won't pay a penny more at the end of it. And the key reason for that is because it's a really difficult time for families. And so by simplifying that pricing process, it makes it a little bit easier. And then the third, I think, is flexibility. And the flexibility of how we memorialize. And after you've taken those steps to make that arrangement with potentially Eirene, you can then take a step back and educate yourself on how you want to celebrate that person's life. And so we're really focused on providing a lot of education to families to open their eyes to whether it's sending remains to space or turning it into a diamond or whatever they feel fit. So those are really the 3 main pillars of why Eirene exists today. We've been privileged to serve thousands of families today, and excited to continue to honor people and support them through a very difficult time. We're definitely not the highest cost provider, and we're not the lowest cost provider. We believe that families want value for their money. They want you to be very honest about what you're charging them. And they still want to ensure that their loved one is in the best of care. And that's why working with Cadence and providing kind of that extra attention to the package is taking a step back and thinking, what do you need to have a dignified, but still high quality, but still affordable cremation package or cremation service? When we put together Eirene, the concept was when you've lost someone you loved, the first thing you need to do is leave that person and leave your family and friends and go make an arrangement face to face with someone. The whole goal of Eirene is to give you back more time to grieve your loss and spend time with family and friends and whoever is important to you after a death. There's no repetition of paperwork or questions. You give us information once, and we will fill out absolutely everything you need. You will register the death. We will get the permits. We will send you to our partner Cadence. Once again, it comes back to the time to grieve your loss versus kind of getting into the nitty gritty of an arrangement. Yeah, we've always said that we are a service business enabled by technology. And so our focus was to leverage technology to simplify and create more ease for the family in those maybe not those parts that didn't have to involve like in person and paperwork and administration. So it's like kind of bridging the gap, right? Like when you look at Eirene, a family calls us or they go on our website, they start the arrangement online. And then we call our operational partner who is on the ground in that area. They pick up your loved one, they bring them to our facility. Then we go back to online and we fill out all the required paperwork for the government. And then we cremate your loved one and hand deliver the remains to you. And so it is, once again, it's kind of combining those two aspects and thinking, how can we make the experience a little bit better through technology? If you look at all of our reviews, the words that are used most often are compassion and caring. And like, we are human at the center of everything we do. We have, bar none, the best customer service in the industry. And that's what we're built on. Like, we're built on the service that we provide to our families. I think that's been a really crucial pillar of our growth and success to date, is providing families with really incredible experiences, as I said, as they navigate a really challenging time. We believe in meeting people where they are. With the generation that we're currently serving, I think there's still that expectation of human and support, and we're happy to provide that in any aspect. Last thing I'll just say here is the pandemic really accelerated what people thought of funeral services, because we were thrown into a position where you had to make your arrangements online. You had to call and you couldn't go into the funeral home anymore. So there was like a huge shift of consumer behavior that occurred. And that's when Eirene was launching. And generally, the average person only plans about 1.5 funerals in their life. If you think about that, you've just lost someone, and then you're thrown into an experience you've never done. We know that it's necessary. Everyone's going to experience making an arrangement. So how can we make it a little bit easier on the family? For Eirene, like any partner we have, it should feel like a continuation of our product. Like, we've built a really seamless flow that families enter information. It's anyone can do it. You can do it on your phone, your iPad, your computer. And so when we think about partners, it has to feel like an extension of our brand. People have no idea the process of what happens after a death. The funeral arrangement is the first part of it, right? And then we talk about estate settlement, and there's grief, and potentially you can go into probate and all of these filing taxes, like all of these different elements that people don't know until they're thrown into it. And I think that's why a lot of people don't love being executors. But once again, it's something that we all probably are going to be at one point in our lives. For Eirene as a business, it's always been about that continuation of support, whether it's us offering it or trusted partners like Cadence. And so we don't want families to feel, after we've delivered the remains and the required paperwork to kind of move on to that next step, that there's kind of a drop of support. We want to hold their hand essentially for that next year, because we know that's the most challenging. You're predicting or telling people what their needs are going to be before they even know that they have them. But then we often get people come back to us and say, like, it was such a smooth transition from Eirene to Cadence, because that's the next step that you take after you get the remains and kind of maybe the pastas stop coming to your house and the support. And it's like, now you have to kind of close all the accounts and notify the correct people. And so it's just like, we have you and we'll continue to support you through that. Yeah, I think anytime I had spoken to previous state administration type services, a lot of them are paper-based. We don't send an email at Eirene, so that doesn't really reflect what we offer. I think it would feel like a major disconnect to like go through the Eirene experience and then all of a sudden get this like massive amount of mail. When I went through the Cadence software, it was like, okay, this all suits, and it wouldn't feel too far off for our families that like Cadence and Eirene kind of are one, and it makes sense for it to be in our package. When we thought of building an Eirene package, it was, what can we include in our package and our services that continue to serve families and just kind of guide them through those next steps. So it was very simple, and I think Cadence helped us elevate our offerings to our families and give them the option to tap into this great resource that we continue to support them. When they go through the Eirene experience, we're like, okay, within 7 days, these are the things that are going to happen. And this is what we're going to ask of you. This is what we're going to provide. And on the 7th day, if all timelines work out, you will get your loved one back. You have to kind of sit with what's next for you. And so then the ability to pass people over to Cadence and continue that support has been really crucial. And like I said, it's been just very consistent. Like, our families have been thrilled with Cadence's services. They want the continued support. And I think that's what we say, like, you're in really good hands. If you need us or you have questions, please reach back out to us. Like, our support doesn't end after we deliver remains. I think it's just a really easy sell, to be honest. But I do think it's just about simplifying it. It's you create a need by saying this is something you're going to need to do. It's included in our package already, so it does feel like an extension of our brand. And the support is, I think, really crucial during such a difficult time. So it's been a no-brainer to stay working with Cadence. Our families often really sing the praises of simplifying that estate administration process. I know all of our funeral directors are very, very thrilled to send families to Cadence. We know that they're in good hands when we do. And then as we kind of touch base with them as time goes on, like, we know that they're still being guided through those next steps of death care. Once again, there's businesses like Eirene and Cadence that exist to reduce the amount of burden. Huge value add to our families, so it was a no-brainer to offer it to them. And I don't think either of us think that it's going to be an easy process by any means, but there's ways that we can make it a little bit better for you. And I think that's just, it's needed. Like, the simplicity of it is needed during that time for families, and they appreciate any support that they can get.